What's up? Welcome to Journey in the Self. I'm your host, Sarah. Today is one of those days where I don't choose the topic chooses me. And needless to say, this topic is pretty hot right now. Over the weekend, a significant number of articles and tweets, statements being made by a number of people in regards to Trump and the Epstein files. His attorney general, Pam Bondi, put her foot in her mouth where earlier in the year, I believe it was sometime in May, she had made the statement that she had the Epstein files on her desk. They were in a number of manila folders, and she was just waiting to release them. Then she goes back on that and said that the files do not exist. Trump's been recently quoted as saying that the, the files don't exist. He's also said that why are people so hung up on Epstein? People should just let it go. So what about pedophilia? Uh, People have been doing that for centuries, he said, and we'll show you that quote from him. Uh, it's been an uproar. He's hoping that it goes away, but the more that he wishes that it goes away, and the more that he is directing his people to try to make it go away, the more that's coming out about it. The more denials has evoked people coming out of the woodwork, including Ghislaine Maxwell, who was Epstein's partner in crime, his procurer of underage women. She's who, by the way, is in jail for her involvement in the sex trafficking and being her procurer. So if the files don't exist, and we know that they do, uh, and that if Epstein was not involved in uh, the sex trafficking and blackmailing, which he clearly was involved in, using sexually compromising photos to gain leverage over prominent individuals, which is very well known to have been the case back when it was actually happening. So these latest attempts of revisionist history to try to paint a different picture uh, are not effective unless one is a brainwashed member of MAGA. But even those who are devout MAGA devotees, uh, they are actually calling into question some of the claims made by Trump and his minions because they were deluded into believing that Trump was someone who was going to drain the swamp, so to speak, and expose the so-called deep state, the people who were behind the scenes controlling the government, pulling the puppet strings. And so the MAGA people were looking forward to Donald Trump exposing those people who they believe uh, are identified in those very Epstein files, and they are. Uh, but of course, the files also include Trump and other people who are in alignment with him. It's interesting how you see both sides right now are trying to either, characterize it as either a conservative thing where Trump is involved and along with other people who are Trump backers, Trump associates, and then the conservatives say it's a liberal thing, and neither one of them really wants the files to be revealed because they know that their people are complicit. It doesn't really, this thing transcends political affiliations. So we're going to go into some of what's happened over the weekend, even up to the current moment. We'll do a brief review of the things that we've talked about in the past, more recently, to put things into context uh, as we go over the information. And again, some of this information has been out there for some time. Uh, so it's really interesting how the history is being manipulated in real time and is being changed in real time as we speak. But it's on the record, so we're going to go through and review some of the information. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and show this right now. Here is a picture that was sent to me by a listener, Brother Cloyd. And you can see Trump with his close associate, confidant, mentor, and former lawyer, Roy Cohn. For those who have tuned into the show in the past, we've talked about Roy Cohn and talked about the fact that Roy Cohn was Trump's former attorney. He was a close friend of J. Edgar Hoover, attended parties with J. Edgar Hoover in the Blue Room in New York, where they had gay sex parties, which included young boys, underage boys. You'll also recall that J. Edgar Hoover had a boyfriend, a gay boyfriend named Colson. Uh, they attended those parties together. The organized crime had compromising pictures of J. Edgar Hoover, which was the leverage that they had on him, such that he would never investigate organized crime. But the context of this is that this type of blackmail used to be able to gain influence and control over prominent people did not start with Jeffrey Epstein. It goes back before him. right? And so you see Roy Cohn in the suggestion in this particular picture is that the association that Trump had with Roy Cohn was a little bit more closer than than people would be led to believe, or he would have you believe. Because again, Roy Cohn was gay. There was a very close relationship between Roy Cohn and Donald Trump. He was his mentor. He modeled much of Roy Cohn's behavior. So the suggestion is, was there a more intimate relationship between Roy Cohn and Donald Trump? That cannot be ruled out. I can just, at the very least, that's not something that can be ruled out, because we know that in the secret societies, homosexuality is very prevalent. And that is one of the initiatory activities that they engage in. And part of the reason that they do that is also to make sure that they have leverage over the members, such that they do not reveal the secrets in the secret society. So there is a lot of circumstantial evidence there that would suggest that there was that type of relationship between the two of them. Okay, and that again puts things into context when we look at the nature of the relationship that Trump had with Jeffrey Epstein, and the nature of the relationships that Jeffrey Epstein cultivated with a number of people who he was in association with. Okay, so let's go back and review some information. I'm going to go back to the book that we were drawing from when we were presenting this information in episode 9 of this series, Donald Trump, Insider or Establishment. And that book is the book by Dylan Howard, Epstein, Dead Men Tell No Tales. And so we'll review some pages from that book. Okay, and I'm going to need to pull it up separately. Just bear with me so that I can read it. You guys can see it, but I can't see it right now. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in so that I can read this for you. Okay. Just bear with me. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is chapter 8 of the book, Jeffrey Epstein, Dead Men Tell No Lies. And What I'm going to read to you is from someone who was a friend of Ghislaine Maxwell, and she says, "I spent a lot of time in Palm Beach at that time," said Maxwell friend Laura Goldman. She continued that Palm Beach is a live and let live kind of space. Lots of rich libertarian types. I don't think that they mixed with the neighbors because they didn't want the neighbors to know what they were doing. I think the police force down there is pretty ineffective. We've seen that they are. I think that people are there on vacation. They don't want to rock the boat. I spent a lot of time in Palm Beach at that time. I've been to their house on Brillo Way, and that would be Jeffrey Epstein's house. It was not. It was kind of not my scene, and there were lots of young ladies. Even though I was much younger then, they were even younger than me, and I really couldn't compete in that scene. Now I feel bad because I got the sense that something was off. I didn't really pay attention to what was off. Now when I see what's happened to all these girls, I feel really terrible that I didn't ride by more often and stop it. She goes on to say, everybody knew that Epstein, was looking for young girls. But I didn't realize, one, that they were that young, and I didn't realize that he was trafficking them. But it didn't surprise me that the Palm Beach police looked away. People don't understand about Palm Beach in the 90s, and at that time, there was no Palm Beach. So Palm Beach was where all the decadent people went. The Palm Beach police kind of looked the other way. I visited with other people Jeffrey Epstein's house in the 90s, and I noticed that it wasn't the grandest house on the beach, but it was the most private. It wasn't the grandest house in the block, but it was the most private. Another visitor, Epstein's attorney, and this is significant, and I wanted to read this into the record because one of the people who has been coming out in the last couple of days to try to refute the claims by the Trump administration. Now, it seems he's been waffling a little bit, but he is refuting the notion that Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, has made that there is no list. There's no Epstein list. Dershowitz has come out and said that there is indeed a list, and that he knows who is on that list. He disavows that that Trump was on the list, or he disavows that Trump is preventing the list from being disclosed. He says that it's being withheld by judges, and that's why he can't speak on it. But he says he knows that that the list does exist. Dershowitz was Epstein's attorney, so he does know that there was a list. However, Dershowitz himself was compromised because Dershowitz was also accused by Trump and Epstein accusers of the same crimes of which they've been accused of. Okay, more specifically, they've accused him as well of inappropriate sexual activity. Okay, so it says another visitor, Epstein's former attorney, Alan Dershowitz, told investigative reporter Jan Heger at the time that the home held many secrets, insisting he knew nothing, which is not likely because he spent a significant amount of time at Epstein's residence. And again, he was implicated in some of the illicit activities there. But It goes on to say, insisting he knew nothing of Epstein's illegal escapades, Dershowitz described in his house in Palm Beach there were two stairways. One of them you were not allowed to go up. He had locked doors, Dershowitz continued. I was never in that part of the house. The same is true in his house in New York. These doors were finally open, however, during the latter police raid of the home. After years of relentlessly hounding the local authorities, authors were able to obtain the official video. The following is a description of its content. Many guests entered the home through the kitchen, a bright and airy space with a black and white checkered floor and cozy bar stools surrounding the island. Heading there through a black staircase, however, it got darker. Carpeted in lilac and bound by white walls, the staircase spiraled up to the upper level, home to several bedrooms, bathrooms, and of course a massage room. Okay, I'm going to skip the rest of this because I have read this into the record already. So we're going to skip to the next page. Of more interest to us is here on page 70 of the book. And in the middle of that page 70, it says, tucked away in the gym bathroom, there was a photo of an arrogant man, not Epstein, featured in our photo insert. The man has let's see. The man has straight, almost orange hair sculpted into a perilous comb over. His hand, rather small, is raised casually in the air as his elbow rests on the arm of his chair. Who does that sound like they're describing here? Featured in our photo insert, the man has long, straight, almost orange hair sculpted into a perilous comb over. His hand, rather small, is casually raised in the air as his elbow rests on the arm of his chair. He wears billowy, ill-fitting button-down slacks, staring pompously with his lips pursed into the camera. Behind him, a young brunette in a white tank top stands with her hands just above his shoulders, as if she were giving him a massage. Beside her, another young brunette returns a favor, massaging the first girl's shoulders as well. Behind the second brunette, a blonde in chunky black sandals, popular with the teens, grins at the camera while massaging the second girl. A four-way massage as only Epstein can orchestrate it. Okay, I'm going to let's see. I was not showing that one, so I'm going to skip to that page for you here so that you can see what I'm reading you. Okay. Okay, so we're on page 70. It goes on to say Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were close friends during that Palm Beach era. I've known Jeff for years, Trump told New York Magazine in 2019, placing his first connection with Epstein in 1987, 2 years before he would step foot on Robert Maxwell's Lady Ghislaine yacht. He's a terrific guy, Trump continued. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. If he believed that, why didn't he report Epstein to the police? Perhaps he didn't think the girls were that young, or perhaps it was because he was in some form Epstein's wingman. In the early 90s, following Trump's divorce from Ivanka Trump, the two were constant companions. A recently unearthed archival video from 1992, recorded by NBC News, about the two pervy playboys whispering and laughing, surrounded by women at Trump's Mar-a-Lago, the same place from which Virginia Roberts, later known as Virginia Giuffre, who, by the way, just passed away. Some people say it might be suicide, same as the suicide that occurred with allegedly that occurred with Epstein. Next to them was an editor for the National Enquirer, Larry Haley, who was reported to have been assigned full time to the Trump beat for the scandal sheet. In 2000, Trump and Epstein were photographed attending an event on the same property with Prince Andrew and Trump wife Melania. According to insiders, Trump had full privileges at Epstein's Palm Beach house as well. He's since denied ever being close with Epstein, but attorney Kevin Spencer, who represents one of Epstein's victims, claims the evidence suggests otherwise. We knew from deposition testimony that we took in the civil cases from a few of the people who worked within Mr. Epstein's home that Donald Trump was more than just a casual acquaintance of Mr. Epstein, he told reporter Doug Montero. We knew that because even on one occasion, we were aware that Mr. Trump had come to the house and stopped by and just ate in Mr. Epstein's kitchen and just sat there and chatted and ate in the kitchen with him. So this was more than just a casual acquaintance. This was somebody that he knew and that they spoke with one another. They socialized with one another. We also knew that Epstein and Trump had gone to parties together at Mar-a-Lago that Mr. Trump had arranged. We knew that one of the victims that came forward and accused Epstein, and bear with me as I switch to the next page, and I'll do that as well for you so that you can see what I'm reading. Oops. Okay, here we go. Eventually turning her into a sex slave was found at Mar-a-Lago. So let's go back again just to. Okay, so we also know that Epstein and Trump had gone to parties together in Mar-a-Lago that Mr. Trump had arranged. We knew that one of the victims that came forward and accused Epstein of eventually turning her into a sex slave was found at Mar-a-Lago originally, Mar-a-Lago being Trump's residence in Palm Beach. She was working there, and that's where Epstein got her from. So we also know through stories that have come forward now from two young girls who were sisters that were in the New York area that Mr. Trump has stopped by Mr. Epstein's New York home on occasion as well. So as far as high profile friends were, so as far as high profile friends, we certainly know that Mr. Trump was a close friend of Mr. Epstein during those exact years that Mr. Epstein was molesting those young girls. These are two gentlemen that definitely ran in the same circles. It says, later Epstein's flight logs would show an entry for Trump on the Lolita Express. Now, I'm stopping here to make the point that according to the current revisionist history, there was no files. And that the files had not been revealed, which is false. Back during the time when Epstein was in and Ghislaine Maxwell were on trial, during discovery, some of the information was brought into the public domain. Some of it was redacted, but it was in the public domain. So that's why it's ridiculous now that almost 10 years later, the claim is being made that the files don't exist. I remember seeing back then, I remember seeing the flight logs and going through them meticulously. Okay, and we're going to go through some of the files tonight. Okay, so later, Epstein's flight logs would show an entry for Trump on the Lolita Express. Not only was his phone number found in Epstein's little black book, which we will go through, but also more than a dozen additional ways to contact him. Again, as we are going through this material here in this particular book, it is alluding to the fact that this information was already in the public domain. The author saw the publication of the little black book. So it's this debate about the files being released is ridiculous because some of that information has already been released. So it's ridiculous that we're even debating the existence of the files. So it goes on to say later Epstein's flight logs would show an entry for Trump on the Lolita Express. Not only was his phone number found in Epstein's little black book, but also more than a dozen additional ways to contact him. After Epstein's crimes became public, Trump attempted to disassociate himself. He reportedly barred Epstein from Mar-a-Lago in 2008 and said in 2009, I knew him like everybody in Palm Beach knew him, insisting I was not a fan. Of course, he said this during the time when he was running for election. Indeed, during those years, Epstein was an inescapable and infamous figure in Palm Beach, one who made little effort to conceal his dark deeds from friends, acquaintances, and even strangers. Although few were invited upstairs or into his more personal quarters, his home was small and the images could easily have been discovered. Okay, I'm not going to, most of this is just focused on Epstein, so I'm going to move away from that now and go into some other information that and just actually provide also some pictorial documentation. So we'll just go through some photos to basically support what we've just discussed here. Okay. Here's a collage of photographs of Epstein with Trump, Epstein, Trump with Ghislaine Maxwell, Trump with Ghislaine Maxwell, Melania, and Epstein. Brother Jamal says, I always thought it was odd that Trump would choose YMCA by the Village People as his theme music at his rallies. Indeed. Yeah. We'll remove that. We'll get some more uh, information here. We'll just go through. Trump and Epstein on a private jet. Don't know whether this is Epstein's jet or Trump's jet. And that's another point, as well, because a lot is made about the fact that Trump doesn't have a lot of doesn't appear on the manifest for the Lolita Express, which is Epstein's plane. But Trump had his own plane, so he didn't need to travel by the Lolita Express. Here again, we have Trump, uh, Trump's wife Melania, Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell. We have, sorry. Another picture of Trump and Epstein. I'll just put a couple more. I think here's a good one showing not only, did he hang with Epstein, but he also hung with someone who was prominent in the media recently. There's Melania Trump and Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, or whatever he calls himself now. Okay, so we're going to move on to some more information. Let's go to some articles here. And I was able to accumulate a few articles. As I've mentioned, a number of things that happened over the last few days over the weekend. So we want to bring some of those things to light. Okay. Here's a good one. Okay, this is something that I alluded to earlier. It says Jeffrey Epstein's former attorney, Alan Dershowitz, who we just talked about in the book Dead Men Tell No Lies, Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein's former attorney, Alan Dershowitz, claims, hand to God, that files are being suppressed and he knows who suppressed them as outrage grows over Trump's apparent cover up. This entire scandal was about to blow sky high. I know for a fact documents are being suppressed and they're being suppressed to protect individuals. I know the names of the individuals. I know why they're being suppressed, Dershowitz said on the Sean Spicer show. But I'm bound by confidentiality from a judge in cases I can't disclose what I know. But hand to God, I know the names of people whose files are being suppressed in order to protect them, and that's wrong. Dershowitz helped negotiate Epstein's now infamous sweetheart deal, which we've talked about in the past, in 2008, which protected the billionaire pedophile from federal prosecution in exchange for a guilty charge on lesser state prostitution crimes. It should be noted, as I mentioned, it should be noted that Dershowitz himself was previously accused of trafficking a young woman to Epstein between 2000 and 2002. The woman later dropped her allegations and stated she may have made a mistake or was paid off handsomely. While Dershowitz is not the most trustworthy of individuals, his closeness to Epstein means that his allegations of suppression should be taken seriously. Sigrid Macaulay, the attorney for several of Epstein's victims, similarly asserted this week that Trump's FBI is sitting on a treasure trove of information that must be released. I think what's really astonishing about this recent disclosure from the government is that they know they are sitting on a treasure trove of information and they're not turning it over if they haven't destroyed it, said Macaulay. If they haven't destroyed it was my editorialization. And I've worked on these cases for over 10 years now. There's a plethora of information that the public has not been able to see relating to Epstein and his co-conspirators, according to Macaulay. Over the weekend, a Justice Department memo, which was leaked, which claimed that the Epstein client list does not exist, that there is no evidence that the billionaire pedophile blackmailed powerful people, and there's no reason to believe that he was murdered. Previously, Attorney General Pam Bondi has claimed that the Epstein list was waiting on her desk to be reviewed. Even MAGA supporters are demanding answers now. Steve Bannon has called for the appointment of a special prosecutor to unseal the evidence in Epstein and release it all. Okay, so let's go back to what was said here. Over the weekend, the Justice Department memo was leaked, which claimed that the Epstein list does not exist and that there is no evidence. And it's interesting in the specifics that they're describing here, as if it sounds like someone who is guilty and hasn't been accused, but because of their guilt, they're defending themselves against something that they haven't been accused of. And so that there is revealing that they felt compelled to say that the Epstein client list does not exist, that there is no evidence that the billionaire pedophile blackmailed powerful people, and that there's no reason to believe that he was murdered. Okay, so in recent times, people haven't been suggesting that, so it is significant that they felt compelled to make those statements. And of course, there's a very good level of support for the fact that what they're saying did not happen is exactly what happened. And we've gone through information on prior shows, and I would encourage you to go through the whole series because we have good documentation that is exactly what Epstein was doing, was blackmailing powerful people. That's why he was keeping those files. And we know from the information that we reviewed that Epstein was an agent of the Mossad, as was Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell. Okay, so we're going to actually go to the list that doesn't exist. Okay, so we are going through that Bondi and Trump have claimed does not exist, and we see a number of names on it. I'm just going to scroll through some of these. You may recognize some. You may there are others you may not recognize. I wish I could get rid of this AI assistant thing. Yeah, hide for this stuff. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go through just some of these just to uh, show you how extensive this list is. You see Alec Baldwin's name is here. You see there's 95 pages here in this list. Okay, I know which page has the information and someone's name who is of great interest to us. But just for austerity, I'm just going to show just other names here, and we'll see some that are significant. We see Edgar Bronfman, who we've talked about in prior shows, uh, Jimmy Buffett, the musician, Edgar Bronfman be of the Bronfman family, who uh, are the liquor distributors, uh, Seagram's being one of their prominent brands. We'll continue to see other names. You'll see some again of some significant people, and then we'll go through a few of those, and then I'm going to skip over to the page of most interest for this particular topic and show. Okay, so just to see there's an extensive list. So to suggest that the list does not exist, uh, we know that it does. We have here the Duchess of York, the Duke of York. Okay, and shortly I'll just look for a couple of more. Ralph Fiennes, the actor. Right, interestingly, Ralph Fiennes is the actor who played Lord Voldemort, the Dark Lord Voldemort, mind you, in the Harry Potter series. And and also he played M, uh, the head of MI6 after his predecessor, uh, the female M, resigned, which is again of uh, not a coincidence. Okay, so I'm going to skip up to page 75 here. Okay, and on page 75, this is page 75. No. Page, bear with me, please. Okay, here we go. Was it page 75 or 85? I think it was 85. Okay, nice. We see Alan Dershowitz name on the list here. And I think actually the page I was looking for is it's page 85. You see Epstein's brother Mark. I think the information that we're looking for is on page 85. Indeed, it is. There it is. One, Mr. Donald Trump. And maybe we can zoom in a little bit on this one. Zoom in for us here. Sorry. Okay, so we can clearly, here, I think I can, there, that's better. And can I zoom? Here, yeah, okay, good. One, Donald Trump. And you see Jeffrey Epstein's little black book, which lists allegedly does not exist. Okay, so we'll put that fallacy to rest. Here's an interesting article. Ghislaine Maxwell was not Jeffrey Epstein's sole enabler. So why is she the only one in prison? Very relevant question. This weekend, the Trump administration officially closed the file on the notorious billionaire Epstein. MAGA aren't the only ones who should be outraged. And here you see the picture that I was showing earlier, much larger picture of Melania, Epstein, Trump, and Ghislaine Maxwell at Trump's Mar-a-Lago club. It says, great news, everyone. We can all stop thinking about Jeffrey Epstein, who was charged with the sex trafficking of minors in 2019 and found dead in his Manhattan jail cell shortly after, apparently of suicide. Great minds have looked into the case and discovered there's nothing more to uncover. So don't waste your time wondering which powerful people might have been a part of Epstein's alleged trafficking operation. There's nothing to see here, nothing at all. Case officially closed. That, in essence, was the message from the Trump administration over the weekend. On Sunday, Axios reported on a memo, which we just alluded to, from Trump's Justice Department and the FBI that concluded there is no evidence that Epstein was involved in blackmailing people, kept a client list, or was murdered. We've just seen the list, so we've dispelled that. Most importantly, the memo said that there is no evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. This is a big deal because Trump and his lackeys have spent a lot of time and energy dangling Epstein-related conspiracy bait in front of their base, constantly insinuating that they're on the verge of revealing the shocking truth about Epstein's network of elite predators. When asked about an Epstein client list, the one that the new memo says that is non-existent, during a February appearance on Fox News, the U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi said, "It's sitting on my desk right now to review." That was in February. Shortly after that interview, there was a big to-do where Epstein-obsessed MAGA influencers were invited to the White House and given binders titled The Epstein Files, full of information that Bondi promised will make you sick. Shock, horror. There was nothing new or notable in those binders, and MAGA had a meltdown. And as I was saying, the information is nothing new. It was revealed back during the trial. That's where the list that I just showed you came from. Now, a second Epstein-induced meltdown is in full swing. Elon Musk, who is back to publicly fighting with Trump and has threatened to start a new political party, has been firing off jabs about the Justice Department's Epstein U-turn. On Monday, Musk, who previously accused Trump of being in the Epstein files, which we just were able to see he is, retweeted a post by a woman called Sarah Fields that said, if the entire government is protecting pedophiles, it has officially become the government against the people. Bit late figuring out the Trump administration doesn't work for the people, but hey, welcome to the resistance, Elon. The conservative activist Robbie Starbuck is also fuming. Pam Bondi, who's being made to be a scapegoat, said the client Epstein list was on her desk to review for release to the public just a few months ago, Starbuck tweeted. Now the DOJ she leads claims that there is no Epstein client list. Sorry, but this is unacceptable. We deserve answers. And this is a MAGA devotee. It's always fun when the MAGA crowd realize what the people they propelled into power are really like. But why are right-wing voices the loudest? Why are right-wing voices the loudest on this topic? Starbuck is right that the current situation is unacceptable. Everyone should be demanding more answers, and I agree, about Epstein. Everyone should be outraged that there's only one person, Ghislaine Maxwell, who has actually faced justice in what was, by all accounts, a vast trafficking operation. Some people have paid in other ways. In 2023, Deutsche Bank agreed to pay $75 million to settle a lawsuit brought by a group of women who accused it of helping to facilitate Epstein's operations. But Maxwell is the only person to have gotten prison time. There are, should be said, a lot of ridiculous Epstein-related conspiracy theories circulated. Those should not obviously be indulged. I disagree with that because there is a lot of evidence that there is something to be evaluated, and there is obviously some type of conspiracy. Even the whole suicide issue has some merit to it because of the fact that the video that shows Epstein in his cell has been altered. So if there isn't anything to cover up, if there is no conspiracy, then why is it that so much effort is being made to alter information, withhold information? Something is amiss. Here it says, earlier this year, that's what I thought. Earlier this year, Virginia Giuffre, one of the most prominent Epstein victims, and we read into the record in prior shows that Virginia Giuffre also accused one Donald Trump of sexual abuse. She was the third Epstein accuser who was reported to have died of suicide or drug overdose. See, these things are not just, they're not coincidence. Okay. So to say that these conspiracy theories are ridiculous is ridiculous in and of itself. You don't just have people just who are prominent in this whole situation just suddenly dying of just killing themselves, who have very incriminating information. They just happen to have committed suicide. Epstein committed suicide. Virginia Giuffre committed suicide. It says she was the third Epstein accuser who was reported to have died of suicide or drug overdose. Epstein destroyed countless lives, and he didn't do it all alone. He was enabled by respectable people who actively facilitated his crimes. And more broadly, he was enabled by people who looked the other way, but they're telling you not to look into it. They're basically encouraging you to look the other way by not trying to delve into what actually has happened. And more broadly, he was enabled by people who looked the other way, who helped whitewash his reputation, who hobnobbed with him in high society. There are people still living out there, living their best lives, and it's increasingly looking like they will never be held accountable. Now, again, when we understand, I say understand, where who controls the media, then you can see why they're the attempt is made to whitewash some of this information and to discourage people from uh, drawing the conclusions that they don't want to be drawn, because they know ultimately if you continue to going down that path, it's going to lead you to the truth, which they don't want people to put things together. Okay, so we're going to move on. So there's more information here. Hopefully I can get through it all. I posted this, and I'm going to. So because of all the uproar that has been going on, because again, all of this has come up over the last couple of days, over the weekend. It appears that Trump is getting desperate, afraid, and he's trying to throw people off and distract people from paying attention to this. So, which is causing him to react. So this is from Donald Trump's Twitter account or X account. He says, "What's going on with my boys, and in some cases, girls? They're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who is doing a fantastic job in caps. We're on one team, MAGA, and I don't like what's happening. We have a perfect administration. The talk of the world, and selfish people are trying to hurt it all over a guy who never dies. And we don't fall for the programming of using caps to make it seem as though by capitalizing it doesn't make it true and doesn't convince us. Uh, that only works on the weak-minded." All right. So the talk of the world, and selfish people are trying to hurt it all over a guy who never dies. Jeffrey Epstein. For years, it's Epstein, over and over and over again. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers of criminals of the Biden administration who conned the world with the Russia hoax, 51 intelligence agents, a laptop from hell, and more? Okay. So again, attempts to misdirect, deflect, send people, don't look here, and there's nothing to see here. Look over there, right? So indicative of the fact that they're coming too close to the truth. You get hitting too close to home, and now he's reacting out of fear and trying to misdirect people. They created the Epstein files, he goes on to say, just like they created the fake Hillary Clinton Christopher Steele dossier that they used on me. And now my so-called friends are playing right into their hands. Why didn't these radical left lunatics release the Epstein files? See, and that whole delusion, it doesn't matter whether it's left or right. They're both in the files. So just stop it with this thinking that it's one or the other. They're all together. That's the strategy, is to keep people pitted against each other in conflict so that no one is actually paying attention to who is actually doing things. They're just pointing fingers at each other while they uh, are able to just operate in darkness while everybody's fighting an illusory battle. He goes on to say, if there was anything, Caps, in there that could hurt the MAGA movement, why didn't they use it? They haven't even given up on the JFK or Martin Luther King Jr. files, as if uh, there was no conspiracy, no plans to murder them, that they were just killed by some deranged gun person. And the government didn't have anything to do with it. Nothing to see here. No matter how much success we've had securing the border, deporting criminals, um, fixing the economy, economies are not fixed. Energy dominance, a safer world where Iran will not have nuclear weapons, but Israel will. And yeah, it's never enough for some people. We're about to achieve more in 6 months than any other administration has achieved in 100 years. And we have so much more to do. We're saving our country and making America great again. Caps. We will continue to be our complete priority. Caps. The left is imploding. Cash Patel. Right. The left is imploding. You're imploding. The left is imploding. Cash Patel and the FBI must be focused on investigating voter fraud, which is like, yeah. Again, pointing to insignificant things. Don't look here, look there. Political corruption, Act Blue, the rigged and stolen election of 2020, and arresting thugs and criminals. Instead of spending month after month looking at nothing but the same old radically left-inspired documents on Jeffrey Epstein. Let Pam Bondi do her job. She's great. Caps, caps, caps. As if, again, we're compelled to believe uh, because it's written in caps. The 2020 election was rigged and stolen. They tried to do the same thing in 2024. That's what she's looking into as AG, and much more. 1 year ago, our country was dead, Caps. Now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world. Let's keep it that way. And let's not waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, somebody that nobody cares about. Thank you for attention to this matter. Well, Trump, that's not going to work. We're not going to comply. Sorry. Okay. Let's see. Get out of this. Okay, good. Let's look at this here. Just a little context just to show who the people were that Jeffrey Epstein developed relationships with. And again, he typically kept files on the people that he was in association with, and often took the opportunity to record them in compromising positions. That's Cameras were uh, on Epstein Island at his residence in Palm Beach, Florida, uh, in the private rooms where the women, not women, the underage girls would get massages. Those things were recorded, and the uh, the lists were used in order to be able to compromise people. That was how he was able to attain his wealth. He was not a whiz in finance. He made his wealth due to the type of connections and influences that he had because of the fact that he was able to gain compromising information on prominent people. And I would suggest that his close friendship with Ghislaine Maxwell is what gave him access to those type of people. So, in the wake of the denials of the existence of the Epstein files, has spurred the interest of one Ghislaine Maxwell, who has decided to speak out about the fact that the Epstein files do exist. So she has expressed her willingness to speak on the files. And here it says that Ghislaine Maxwell is wanting to speak in front of Congress about the Epstein files. Sources tell Daily Mail. Maxwell, 63, is the only person behind bars, serving 20 years on child sex trafficking charges, despite the fact that pedophile Jeffrey Epstein allegedly controlled a web of underage girls. And I'll just say, for the record, my opinion is that Jeffrey Epstein did not commit suicide. He was either killed, which I don't really believe. I believe he was extracted by the Mossad and continues to live more than likely in Israel now. That's my opinion. Additionally, Epstein's victims allege that they were passing around the sex toys to his wealthy friends and billionaire business associates who regularly visited his homes, including his private island, Little St. James. I think that one was the one that's also known as Lolita Island. Now, a source said, despite the rumors, Ghislaine was never offered any kind of plea deal. She would be more than happy to sit before Congress and tell her story. No one from the government has ever asked her to share what she knows. She remains the only person to be jailed in connection to Epstein, and she would welcome the chance to tell the American public the truth. What the truth is remains to be seen. Maxwell was convicted in 2022 over her role in a scheme to sexually exploit and abuse multiple minor girls with Epstein over the course of a decade. There's Ghislaine and Maxwell. Excuse me, Ghislaine and Epstein. Maxwell argues She should have been protected from prosecution as part of a non prosecution agreement made by Epstein, her former lover and boss, in 2007 when he agreed to plead guilty to two minor charges of prostitution and a sweetheart deal, which saw him spend little time behind bars. And now controversy continues to rage over the Department of Justice's statement that there is no Epstein client list and that the release of videos from inside New York's Metropolitan Correction Center, which the DOJ says proves he committed suicide in 2019 while being held in jail on sex trafficking charges. Critics have pointed out to the fact that there is a crucial minute missing from the jailhouse video that also does not show the door or indeed the inside of Epstein's jail cell. Okay, so there is reason to question whether or not he actually committed suicide. And I've also seen information that is more than a minute missing. There's 3 minutes. The scandal and alleged cover up has prompted a rebellion amongst President Trump's loyal MAGA base. Some even believe Attorney General Pam Bondi should be fired after promising to release all the files related to Epstein and his high profile male friends, only to apparently renege on that promise. And I would suggest that the reason that the file has not been released is because Trump is listed, but there's a number of prominent, high profile people who also don't want their names to be revealed and have likely put forth pressure to ensure that the information is not released, that their information is not released. I might have to go in. I haven't read this part, but this might be of interest to us. So I may end up having to come back to read this. But yeah. Inside Jeffrey Epstein's death report and 10 troubling questions the DOJ refuses to explain. On Saturday night, President Trump posted a rebuttal to accusations of a cover-up on social media on his social media site Truth Social, saying, okay, that's what we were reading from. So it wasn't from X or Twitter. That one came from Trump's propaganda arm, Truth Social. The Epstein cover-up was also a main topic of conversation among attendees of this weekend's Student Action Summit in Tampa, Florida, hosted by the conservative group Turning Point USA, an organization many credit with rallying Trump's young base before last year's presidential election. Sharon Allen, the attendee, told NBC News, "It's not even about Pam Bondi to me. It's like, look, Trump, we elected you because you were supposed to be different. So you have to prove to us you're different." A source close to Maxwell told Daily Mail that the former girlfriend of Epstein, who continues to protest her innocence, that's probably not what they mean to say. She was likely meant to say to promote her innocence. So I'll just read that again. The source close to Maxwell told Daily Mail that the former girlfriend of Epstein, who continues to promote her innocence, would welcome the chance to sit in front of Congress and tell her story. Here, we'll play this video. See how Trump responds here. Obviously, that's ridiculous. We're going to skip that part. We'll say, obviously, she hasn't looked into it. And there's, as we've gone through this whole series, we've provided just from publicly available information that we have not the resources to be able to do the type of uh, investigation uh, into what has happened with Jeffrey Epstein, who his connections were. But with just publicly available information, we are able to be able to definitively draw some connections between Jeffrey Epstein, the Mossad. Uh, we've had information that indicates that again, from publicly available information, that he has used the information from his gathering of compromising information to be able to influence black male people, uh, turn over that information to be able to control politicians and control prominent people, uh, and likely for the benefit of the Israeli government. We've documented that. So, but we've also documented the connections that Trump has to uh, the Zionist network. So to suggest that there is no information to be able to substantiate these connections is ridiculous. And again, to show that this is not about politics, you see Trump here with Epstein, Ghislaine, Maxwell. And in these days, mind you, Trump was a friend of Bill Clinton, who we see here with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. These people run in the same circles. It's not about politics. The source said congressional hearings have been held into everything from JFK's assassination to 9/11, all of which have been covered up. This will just be another one that goes into those files. But we are on the cusp of the Aquarian age. We're living on the cusp of the age of information. Things that have been hidden will be revealed. Information will come out. It's coming out now. The source said congressional hearings from every have been held into everything from JFK's assassination to 9/11. The Epstein files rank up there with those cases. Indeed, it does. Ghislaine would be willing to speak for Congress and tell her story. Maxwell is also fighting to have her appeal heard by the Supreme Court. On July 14th, lawyers for the U.S. government will submit their response to her plea for the Supreme Court to take up her case. Good luck with that. I'm not optimistic of her receiving what she's looking for there. Um, let's hope that she doesn't fall prey to suicide. President Trump's former first buddy Elon Musk sensationally claimed that there's a cover-up because Trump is mentioned in the Epstein files. Something sources close to Maxwell say is a false flag. Uh, I don't agree. Um, I think he is in the files, but he's not the only one in the files, and there are likely more prominent people who are also in the files who uh, have maybe a more compelling uh, or provide a more compelling uh, reason to keep those files suppressed. President Trump was, please forgive the music. Um, I happen to be in Hawaii, so that's the music. President Trump was photographed with Epstein several times, and they ran in the same circles. But Trump was one of the first to break all contact with Epstein because they fell out over a business deal, and Trump's Epstein of women, the informed source said, which is not true. Hmm. Ghislaine Maxwell wishes he had never met Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, I'm sure. Now, no, I'm not going to watch the full video. Maybe we'll do that next time. Oh, what the heck? Let's watch. Yeah, of course she regrets meeting him and had wished she's going back because she's in jail now. Um, Obviously, she doesn't regret what happened to the children. She's remorseful about what's happened to her. There are no big shots about President Trump and the Epstein files, indeed. But there are a lot of powerful men involved and a lot of money, and it will come down to following the money. I agree with that. The Department of Justice has said no one else is likely to be prosecuted in relation to the Epstein case, including Britain's Prince Andrew, probably not, who was accused by Virginia Giuffre, who committed suicide, of allegedly sleeping with her when she was 17 and underage. And there is footage of Prince Andrew with Virginia Giuffre when she was like 16 or 17 years old. Well, which we've shown in prior shows, and so you can go back and review the shows and you'll see that footage. Prince Andrew has consistently and vehemently denied all charges against him and settled a civil lawsuit with Miss Giuffre with no admission of wrongdoing, which means he paid her off. Miss Giuffre allegedly committed suicide earlier this year. Okay, and there's more. Jaw dropping bombshell drops in the Jeffrey Epstein saga as it's revealed that Donald Trump considered signing a presidential pardon for Epstein's right hand woman, Ghislaine Maxwell, because he was worried about what she might reveal. Keep a close eye on Ghislaine Maxwell, uh, particularly now that she has expressed her willingness to speak. So I'll read that again. Jaw dropping bombshell drops in the Jeffrey Epstein saga as it's revealed that Donald Trump considered signing a presidential pardon for Epstein's right hand woman, Ghislaine Maxwell, because he was worried about what she might reveal. And it gets so much worse. According to journalist Michael Wolff, Trump became very wary after Maxwell was arrested in 2020 for allegedly helping Epstein to operate his vast and monstrous child sex trafficking ring. She was ultimately convicted on 5 counts, including sex trafficking a minor, and sentenced to 20 years in prison. Maxwell has long been cited as evidence of Epstein's supposed link to intelligence agencies, in no small part because her father, Robert Maxwell, which we just mentioned earlier, had known connections to British MI6, Soviet KGB, and Israeli Mossad, okay, which we documented in probably, I think, 2 or 3 shows ago in detail. After her arrest, Wolf told the Daily Beast podcast that Trump began asking, what could she say? What could she say? Trump's disturbing friendship with Epstein is well documented. Indeed, it is. We've gone through that information. He's on the record calling the billionaire pedophile a terrific guy, which we read. And Wolf said that they were two guys joined at the hip for a good 15 years. They did everything together, said Wolf. And this is from sharing, pursuing women, hunting women, sharing at least one girlfriend for at least a year, and this kind of rich guy relationship with each other's planes. I dare say they kind of loved each other. These were brothers in arms for a long time, he added, consistent with what we just read from Jeffrey Epstein, Dead Men Tell No Lies. Oligarch Elon Musk has alleged that Trump is in the Epstein files, which we saw, a claim that seems more likely to be true with each passing day. It would make sense that a shameless criminal like Trump would consider exploiting the powers of the presidency to shield Maxwell and by extension himself. Everyone around him was kind of like, God, we hope she won't say anything, but we really hope he doesn't pardon her, said Wolf. Ultimately, Trump didn't go through with the pardon. It's worth noting, however, that when he was asked about Maxwell during his first term, he had nothing but kind words for the evil woman. I just wish her well. Frankly, I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach, Trump said. I wish her well, whatever it is. Now, surprisingly, the White House is denying these allegations. Given how pathologically dishonest this administration is, everything that they say should be doubted. This past weekend, a MAGA Justice Department memo leaked, which claimed that the Epstein client list does not exist, that there is no evidence of the billionaire pedophile blackmail powerful people, and that there is no reason to believe that he was murdered. Previously, Attorney General Pam Bondi has claimed that the Epstein list was waiting on her desk to be reviewed. Now Democrats and even the MAGA base are calling for the full release of the Epstein file. American people have a right to know if the president is implicated in these horrifying crimes. I agree. Trump urges this is bad. Trump urges supporters to move on from societal disdain for pedophilia. I said that right. Trump urges supporters to move on from societal disdain for pedophilia. In other words, he's basically saying, get over the issue with pedophilia. It's not a problem. Stop talking about it. There's other things that you should be concerned about. Of course, which is ridiculous, but he wants people to let it go. He considers it to be something that's normal. That's not an issue. Now, regardless of what perspective people have, whether they're conservatives or liberals, I would say that most people are in agreement that pedophilia is disdainful, uh, disgusting, uh, immoral, and every other similar term that you could come up with is reprehensible. But here, the president of the United States is telling people to get over it. pedophilia. Facing mounting backlash from his MAGA base over his perceived ties to the Jeffrey Epstein case, President Donald Trump reportedly encouraged his supporters Monday to simply move on from society's widespread disdain for pedophilia. It's time to just accept that some people like having sex with kids and focus on the fantastic things we're doing to win back the respect of the world, said Trump, who expressed frustration that instead of celebrating the passage of his domestic spending bill or his historic deportation numbers, many of his supporters were getting distracted by something that people have done since ancient Greece. Are people really still talking about the sexual abuse of children? Let it go. Our administration is making America great again. That's the story, not whether I or anyone else diddled an underage girl. The case is closed. Sometimes kids get molested. Maybe they shouldn't dress like such sluts. Trump went on to state that he has had many pedophilia friends and associates over the years who have been fine, hard-working Americans. And here we have Pam Bondi is now under scrutiny. This is from Newsweek on the 7th. Let's let's go ahead and listen to Attorney General Pam Bondi. Wow. It looks like she was about to lose it and break down and cry. Misdirection. Attorney General Pam Bondi is facing scrutiny after a memo from the Department of Justice said that there was no evidence that the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein kept a client list or was murdered. The memo, first reported by Axios, said investigators found no incriminating client lists and no credible evidence that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals. It also said the video footage from the Manhattan jail, where Epstein was being held when he died, supported the medical examiner's finding that he died by suicide. Newsweek contacted the DOJ for comment via the contact form on its website outside regular business hours. And likely they declined to comment. The context rumors about Epstein's alleged client list have spiraled since the disgraced financier died while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges in 2019, with some believing it would implicate high profile names in sex crimes. Absolutely. In a since deleted social media post being there, Elon Musk said, without evidence. Uh, During his acrimonious fallout with President Donald Trump last month, that the Epstein files had not been released because Trump was featured in them. president has dismissed the claim, saying he had nothing to do with it. Not likely. According to the memo, no further charges are expected in connection with the review. Definitely. We did not uncover evidence that would predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. Because they're not looking, as they said, they concluded there's nothing to see because they're not looking. Here we'll see a list of Trump allies who called for the release of Epstein's files. One of Bondi's lieutenants at the FBI is considering resigning over the Epstein files clash. It's also said that the Department of Justice and the FBI's review of records found that much of it was subject to court order sealing, and the only infraction would have been aired publicly had Epstein gone to trial, as the seal served only to protect victims and did not expose additional third parties to allegations of illegal wrongdoing. Through this review, we found no basis to revisit the disclosure of those materials and will not permit the release of child pornography. That's not what people want to be revealed. They want to know who was involved, and they can release that. But they won't because of the significance of who was involved in it, including Trump. Explaining the decision not to release further records, the memo said that one of the government's highest priorities is combating child exploitation and bringing justice to victims, none of which they are interested in at all. He added, perpetuating unfounded theories about Epstein serves neither of those ends. Again, there's a lot of support behind the so-called theories. The details in the memo prompted questions, including from Trump supporters about Bonnie's past comments about Epstein's alleged client list, because again, back in February, she said she had it. Now she says it doesn't exist. In February, Bondi said on Fox News that an alleged client list was sitting on her desk and would soon be released. The Justice Department then distributed binders marked declassified to far-right influencers in the White House, but it quickly became clear that much of the information had long been in the public domain, which is what I was saying before. This is not new information. The information has been there for some time. And that's why we were able to show this, because this has been in the public domain for quite some time. She said in May that the FBI was reviewing tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. Bondi's comments and the delay in releasing the next batch of documents have tapped into suspicions that damaging details about Epstein or other prominent figures remain hidden. The Associated Press reported on July 1st that it had spoken with lawyers and law enforcement officials in the criminal case of Epstein and his former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, who was convicted on sex trafficking charges after helping Epstein abuse underage girls. The officials said that they hadn't seen and don't know of a trove of recordings like what Bondi described. Okay. Let's go back here. Okay, we're getting information. Oh, okay. The audience couldn't hear the clip, so I'm sorry about that. There's probably something here in this application that might enable me to be able to play the audio of the clips that I may not be aware of. So it's unfortunate that we weren't able to hear the clips. And apparently our Facebook stream ended up getting suspended, probably because of the significance of the information. So I think we've been on for a while. It's 9:18 there, so we've almost been on for a couple of hours. But uh, the list does exist. We've seen it. Um, we've seen some prominent names there, including one, Donald Trump. And there's more information that we haven't been able to get to, but there's plenty of information to dispel the notion that the list does not exist, uh, that there's no information to support the connection that Epstein had to the Mossad and Israeli intelligence. We've documented those connections. We've documented uh, the type of connections that he's had with prominent people. We've documented Trump's connection to prominent Zionists. We've documented Trump's connection to prominent people in organized crime. So I would highly encourage all of you, if you have not seen the prior videos, do go to my YouTube page where you'll see from the beginning how we've documented these connections. And in order to be able to get a fuller and clear picture of uh, who's involved in all this and how this all plays, and it documents the fact that Trump is not an outsider, that the connection that Trump has are to the very people who are described as being the so-called deep state. The very people that our late brother, the great Steve Coakley, mentioned as the roundtable group, the circle within the circle. Trump has a direct connection to those people, to the Rothschild family. And you cannot be more insider than that. So I won't rehash all those connections, but we have documented that well. Uh, I hope that I've done Brother Steve proud in a small way, and being able to document, provide this information to you. We provide the information so that you can also go back and do your own research uh, on it. So it's there if we want to look. Seeking you shall find. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. We are battling a spiritual warfare, um, and spirituality is not an escape from life. We are meant to, even as spiritual people, to stand up against darkness. And part of us standing up against darkness is bringing light where it's needed, whether it's the light of our beingness and providing uh, that light to others, in terms of our the light of our spiritual vibration, but also shining the light of knowledge uh, and bringing knowledge to the forefront. Um, and bringing light on the darkness that has been prevalent in this society, and that ends up controlling things, so that we can move into a more awakened and age of light. So with that, thank you for joining us here on Journey in the Self. I trust that you found it quite informative, uh, and we'll continue to monitor these events as information unfolds and becomes revealed to us, and we'll continue to share some spiritual insights with you. I do encourage you as well. I did a talk at Carashing Center over the weekend on Sunday. You can go to my Facebook page and review that, and you'll find that to be significantly uplifting. All right, with that, thank you for joining us here on Journey in the Self, and I look forward to seeing you next time. What's up?